Good morning, welcome to lecture 11 of the software testing course. Today we will look into test management. Now here we will look into some aspects that should be taken care of while planning a project. That is some features or factors that should be considered while planning. So the first one is choice of standards. Now standards are an important part of planning in any organization, and usually there are two types of standards, that is external standards and internal standards. And external standards are standards that a product should comply with and are externally visible and are stipulated or mandated by external consortia or by external organizations or even external systems that interact with our organization. Now, internal standards are standards formulated by the organization to bring consistency and predictability within the organization, and it standardizes the processes and methods of working within the organization. And some examples of internal standards are naming and storage conventions for the various test artifacts that are being used, that is the test cases, the test specifications, and so on. The standards that the documents that are being produced should follow, the test coding standards that should be followed, the test reporting standards that should be followed. So all these standards or conventions give a general format to everything, and this also raises the level of the organization. So we have two categories of standards: internal standards that is being done or given by the organization, and external standards that are external to the organization and certain rules or regulations that external agencies uh, apply on the organizations. Now, naming and storage conventions for test artifacts. Now, every test artifact, that is the test specification, the test case, the test results, have to be named appropriately and meaningfully. As we do in code, here also everything should be done appropriately and meaningfully. And naming conventions should enable easy identification of the product functionality that set of tests are intended for. Then it should enable reverse mapping, that is, should identify the functionality corresponding to the given set of tests. And also conventions for directory structures for test, that is, can group similar tests together. So a formal structure can be given for all these tests, and they can be grouped into a particular format. So that format can look like the structure of a directory. So similar conventions need to be used so that the standards are common in all projects and they are easy to follow, and also the organization has a certain level of quality. Now, document standard specifies how to capture information about tests within the test scripts itself, and it is important to automated testing also. Now, for manual testing, documentation standards corresponding to specifying the user and the system response at the right level of detail that is consistent with the skill level of the tester. So, for the two kinds of testing, that is automated testing and manual testing, the standards can be slightly different. And in internal documentation, appropriate header level comments at the beginning of the file that outlines functions served by the test should be given. Sufficient inline comments spread throughout the fields explaining the functions served by the different parts of the test script should be given. And also up-to-date change history information, that is, if any changes are being made, that also should be documented. So for standards, we should follow certain standards for documents. So these documents need different standards in the case of automated testing and manual testing. Next one is test coding standards. Now they go one level deeper into the tests and enforce standards on how tests themselves are written. It enforces the right type of initialization and cleanup that the test should do to make the results independent of other tests. So uh, here test coding standards affect the test cases that we are writing. That is, it forces us to follow certain standards in writing the test cases, and it also encourages reusability of the test artifacts. That is the test specification and test cases and so on. So we can reuse it, and it also provides standard interfaces for external entities like operating systems, hardware, etc. The next one is test reporting standards. Now, testing is tightly interlinked with product quality, and all stakeholders must get a consistent and timely view of the progress of test. And test reporting standards address this issue. That is, what all is happening during the testing and what all updations are being done. This every stakeholder should be informed about. So that is being done using the test reporting standards. Now, test reporting standards provide guidelines on the level of detail that should be present in the test reports, the standard formats and contents, and the recipients of the report. So the guidelines provide what all should be present in the test reports, what all standards or standard format should be followed, the contents that should be included, and who is the recipient of the reports. Now, internal standards provide a competitive edge to a testing organization. It acts as a first level assurance against employee turnover and attrition. That is, it is safeguards an employee and also prevents employee turnover. That is, employees leaving the organization, and also employee attrition. That is, employees getting tired or depleted due to the stress that is being put upon them. So it prevents that uh, such problems when we use standards. So it brings new test engineers up to speed rapidly, and predictability, increase in confidence level, and at the end, quality for the final product. So standards help engineers to uh, grow up rapidly or come up rapidly to the speed of the organization, and also it increases their confidence level, and also at the end it finally improves the product quality. And also it all anomalies that are existing can be brought into light in a timely manner. So if any problems or anomalies are there inside the product, that can be identified when we document. The next one is test infrastructure management. Now, testing needs a planned, robust infrastructure, and the infrastructure is usually made up of a test case database, a defect repository, and a configuration management repository too. So, a test case database or a TCDB, it captures all the relevant information about the test cases in an organization, and a defect repository captures all the relevant details of defects reported for a product, and it is an important vehicle of communication that influences the workflow within a software organization. So all the defects that occur are reported or put into the defect repository. And another one is the software configuration management or the configuration management repository. It keeps track of change control and version control of all entities that make up the software product. So whenever we make a change into any document or any artifact, that has to be reflected in the document that is kept there, or each and every version change has to be kept, and it also has to be tracked. So that is being done by the configuration management repository. Now, change control ensures that changes to test files are made in a controlled manner and also with proper approvals. The changes made by one test engineer is not overwritten by another one, and each change produces a distinct version of the file, and at any point of time everyone gets access to only one or the most recent version of the test files. So this is what the CM repository looks into. Now, TCDB or the defect repository and the SCM repository should complement each other, and they work together in an integrated way. Now, next one is test people management. It is an integral part of project management. People need to be hired, motivated, and retained. And for that, various tasks are taken up, and one being team building exercises. That is given to, it should be given in between, that is in between each phase and activity, so that it removes all the stress and pressure that is being put upon the people, and this is usually necessary for the success of the team. Next one is integrating with product release. Now, success of a product depends on the effectiveness of the integration of development and testing activities. Now, schedules of testing need to be linked to product release. So, testing is linked to the release of the product. Only if this testing is successfully completed can we release a product. So all these activities that we saw now come under the head test management. That is, it's mainly concerned with the standards that should be followed. All type of standards, that the coding, documentation standards that should be followed. Then other factors such as the people management steps that should be taken up. Then the links between product release and the testing phase, and so on. And so all these combined together come under test management process. And this is all for today. We'll continue with test process in the next class.